Hello everyone and welcome to Next Generation Saints. I'm your host, Nick Coons. Before we get started today, I'm going to go ahead and remind everyone that's listening to go ahead and like and subscribe to this podcast. Wherever you may be listening to podcasts, it goes to help getting this out into the algorithm. So today I wanted to talk about the Nashville school shooter, the one Audrey Haley for Covenant School that happened in Nashville, Tennessee. Now, they have been very clear on the news on this that this is unconfirmed, but apparently it was a leak of her highly anticipated manifesto. So they're not going to confirm anything, but at the same time, it's not surprising. The photographs are from evidence, and you can see the police cars in the background, Nashville police cars and stuff, and you can even Google map it, and it's right there. So I wanted to focus. There's a lot of stuff that's on here, and it's kind of hard to read because a lot of it's chicken scratch. So I have a very difficult time going through all of it. But in essence, the first page is describing about how excited this person is, and she's been waiting for 2 weeks and can't possibly believe that she made it this long, and that she just hopes that she has a lot of people that she kills, that she just slaughters them. And that the only prayer she has to God is, and I quote, "God, let my wrath take over my anxiety. It might be 10 minutes. It might be 3 to 7. It's gonna go quick. I hope I have a high death count." And I'm just quoting it from the manifesto right here. That was terrifying to me. But what's even more is I believe this was, and I believe it's connected to very much to our society nowadays, where we're teaching racism in our schools. We're teaching about to hate white people. Now, this gal was a transgender. She was identified as a transgender. She believed in leftism, and judging by her manifesto, she was very anti-white. Not just anti-white, like racially anti-white. She was white, but she hated white people. And I'm just going to read this to you really fast. I'm going to leave a disclaimer on it right now. This is going to have some profanity in it. So if you have young children and they're in the room right now listening, put on headphones, go ahead and take them out of the room. Whatever it may be, I don't want to have that influence on the young children, but I'm going to read this plainly because you need to know. So here we go. This was written on February 3rd, 2023. Kill those kids. Those crackers going to private fancy schools with those fancy kayaks and sports backpacks with their daddies Mustang and convertibles. Fuck you, little shits. I wish to shoot you weakness. Dicks with your mop yellow hair. Wanna kill all you little crackers. Bunch of little faggots. With your white privilege, fuck you, faggots. Like I said, it is very graphic in what's saying. I'm not usually the kind of person to curse on my own podcast because I like to keep it family friendly, but I felt this was kind of needed of something of this nature. That is what these people have written down. This is anti-white supremacy. That's what this is. It's destroy them. Now, on the last page of this notepad, it talks about death day. It says death day, and it's literally just a schedule of what time things were going to happen at. It's really all it was. It was like if you and I made a calendar and said, "Hey, well, this time it's this, at this time it's this, and this time it's this." Meeting at 4:00. Whatever. Coffee at 9. Stuff like that. That's what it was. So we see lots of this taking place, and the last one on the list was it looks like it's 12:37, open fire towards, I can't even read that one, it's all weirded out, it's some racial slur, time to die. Oh, folks, we're wondering in our society how come this happens. We wonder all the time, how come racial society is taking place? Why would this happen? How come? That's crazy. I've actually had family members talk like this, and I've had, I see a lot of this from college universities and whatnot. White privilege. This leftist ideology that is being taught out there, that you need to be ashamed of the color of your skin. If you're white, you need to be ashamed of being white. I've even seen interviews with some people that were claimed to be controversial conservatives, who were interviewing white liberals. You know, these, and I say white because it's just like, it's amazing to see how much they hate hate people who are the same race as them. That's what's confusing to me. And they say, you know, why do I need to hate white people? And they go, well, you shouldn't, but you should be able to take, you need to take responsibility for what white people have created. And what they're really trying to say is white people are absolutely evil. We need to end the white race. We need to stop. This is racism. If I had switched on the other foot and said we need to stop black people and hang the N-word here, and those the N-word people, they're just nothing more than apes, you'd be screaming racism. That's exactly what this is. And I wonder, you wonder why on earth this has come to America, and how come it's to the point now that this ideology has manifested. After all, what you think about becomes your belief. Your belief becomes your identity becomes your actions. These people are turning into racists. Well, now, why is this happening? Have you noticed ever since we removed God from the equation and leaving Jesus Christ out of it, right? We mutilate children. We tell them that boys can become girls can become boys, and that gender is just a spectrum. We leave biblical, traditional Judeo-Christian principles. They're like in Genesis, where God says, I created man. There's only two genders, man and woman and man. You were created in the image of God. In the image of God, they were created. We are created in the image of God. We lose center. We take away God out of the equation, and we implement racist ideologies. We confuse young people by telling them that they don't know what gender they're. They confuse their identity at the worst possible moment of questioning them, and saying, when they're already trying to figure out what the heck puberty is. I mean, you got hair growing in places you didn't know existed. You're having weird feelings taking place. Your boys are noticing girls more. Girls are noticing boy more. And, hey, look, we all got different parts growing, and, we're more paying attention to the sexes like crazy. And we confuse them at the most pivotal point that we need to be affirming God in everything we do, to train them, raise them in the ways of the Lord. And when we don't do that, suddenly we train them in the ways of racism, of gender identity politics, and political correctness, and we wonder, why was there a shooting? Why were people slaughtered? Where did this hatred and bigotry come from? What did you expect to happen? That is my question. What did you expect to take place? Were you expecting that these children to come out like enlightened and doing fantastic and amazing? No. When you go against God's design, when you go against biblical values, the way God created us, then everything goes to heck in a handbasket. Everything goes to poo. That's how it is. The poo hits the fan, man. So it's like we're trying to figure out, why are these shootings happening? Why is this happening? How come it's happening? Mass shooting. It's never the gun. We've had guns in our country for over 200 years. And it's only within the last, maybe like 30, years or so? Maybe 35 years? That mass shootings began to become a huge thing. Ever notice that since we removed God out of the equation, out of our society, and within the last 30 years have made that big push away from there? That this junk is happening? You ever notice that? Or is it just me? And we keep asking, again, why is this happening? Why is this happening? You're stupid if you're thinking that. If you're trying to figure, if you're the one that's preaching white privilege, if you're the one pushing this far leftist, anti-God extremism on children, and then wonder why the heck bad things like this keep taking place, I gotta ask if your head's screwed on straight. We need to be teaching biblical values, loving God with all of our heart, with all of our mind, our understanding, with everything we have in us, and loving our neighbor as ourselves. We need to be pushing that narrative out there. We need to make Jesus non-taboo in school districts, in the workplace. I know they're like, keep religion out of the workplace. Keep religion out of schools. Well, you're going to get more shootings then. Taking the gun away is not going to solve anything. It's a mechanism. I got guns at home. They haven't killed anyone. I carry a gun every single day I'm around. When I walk around, I'm always carrying heat on me. That's how I am. Because I don't know if I'm going to go to Costco and some nutcase decides to pull out a gun and start firing at people, and I would be the one to be there to fire back at them. But more to the point, because I digress from that point, look at what is happening to our young... This is the next generation, folks. These people, these kids are our next generation. They're the hope of our country's future. And if we're going to lead them astray, what kind of future is our America going to have? And I would even push it as far. I know I have listeners that are from foreign countries and who are listening in the Philippines and Europe or wherever you may be. The next generation is your country. When you die, you're going to leave it to them. How screwed up are they? How many times have you looked at the next generation and go, geez Louise, man, I don't know what they're smoking, but they're really off. Well, they're the ones who are going to get the country next. We need to instill Judeo-Christian principles. We need to understand why we believe in our Judeo-Christian principles. Study the Bible. Read it. Bible studies. We need to stop schools from pushing gender theory, right? We need to stop having them push this. We need to stop pushing Jesus Christ out of it. We need to stop celebrating Pride Months where we let's just go celebrate being gay and whatnot. We need to go back to the way God created us. Created community, created the parents in the family. We need to instill the younger generation with Judeo-Christian principles, loving God and loving our neighbor. I can't say it enough. It's just ultimately, I'm sorry about that, folks, but it gets to me. Again, we keep asking, why is this happening? Why would it not happen? Seriously. Did you expect when you brainwash these kids? When you brainwash them in the gender ideology? When you brainwash them in the Marxism or brainwash them into anti-whiteness and what is it? I'll think of it in a second here. Teaching them to hate people who look like themselves. Hate white people all day. And then they do racial hateful attacks. It's no different than, I'm going to switch here over to the Palestinians. It's no different than the Palestinians being taught continuously over and over again to hate the Jew and the Zionists. Hate the Jew, Zionists. Hate the Jew, kill the Jew. Hate the Jew, kill the Jew. And you raise them in that kind of culture, and you wonder why this all takes place. It breaks my heart to see this. I had my suspicions that it might be racially motivated. Because a lot of the time, these news reports come out, and it's like, we're not sure what happened. And the first thing I'm always going to hear is more gun control. I remember years ago, I think it was in 2016, 2017-ish, maybe right around there. I was working at a company called Rentex, and I was driving to San Diego, and it was right after that Florida shooting happened. And I remember they said, we're going to have a city hall meeting with all these students that come in, and we're going to invite a senator, the NRA, and the sheriff Israel to show up. And I tuned in to listen. I did. I put it, I had my phone on, but I wasn't watching it. I was just listening to the audio on YouTube. And it was just, it had nothing to do with who was this person who shot up the school. What was their thought processes like? What led them to the situation that they were in? Did anyone try to reach out to help this person at all? Things like, what is wrong with this kid? Why did he do what he did? Did anyone ask that? Oh, no. We didn't have that conversation. We had a politically charged environment where Sheriff Israel, who turned out to be the guy who was a coward, who held his forces back and stopped them from going into the school, well, they could hear the gunshots and people screaming after being shot, and people are dying, and they can hear them screaming out as they die. They said, we need to have a real conversation about gun control. Really? The coward, the one who didn't go in, is screaming, we need more gun control? I mean, you gotta be flipping kidding me. And you just said, we need to have a real conversation about, you mean, no, you don't want a real conversation about gun control. Whenever you hear politicians say, we want to have a real conversation about something, no, it's, you obey the narrative, you agree with them, or you're not taking this seriously enough. I digress. So, this girl hated white people, and from what I've gathered is she hunted down the pastor's daughter at this school, and with great intention shot and murdered her. It breaks my heart, folks. It just shatters my heart. We need, as a nation, we need to go back to God. We need to go back to our communities and tell people we need Jesus. We need to repent as a country, repent as a community, and turn back to Jesus. We need to bring Jesus back into the schools. I know it's like, what's a public school? They don't do that. I'm almost at a point of saying, why don't we just start doing homeschooling? And I know that's complicated. I know it's a very gray area. There's a lot of issues, and it's not a simple solution. But I think that things need to take place. Maybe we need to have a school administration where we teach the Bible, or create a club that it's all Bible study, and really let God do the work on that Bible study group. And so people are attracted to come in. It's possible. So I got that coming down through the desk. I want to let you guys know about that. There is hope. We are not too far gone as a country. We are not too far gone as a community. There is hope. We can turn to Jesus. We can bring it back. We can come back to Jesus. I think when many people say that our country is gone, there's no way we can come back and whatnot, I think of I remember watching Jesus Revolution, the movie that Greg Laurie, I think he produced it, and it had Lonnie Frisbee in it and a guy who played Greg Laurie younger. I remember hearing the guy who played Chuck Smith in that movie saying, this generation's so lost, and I don't understand, they need a bath, they're all this thing and that. And I remember hearing on different documentaries that people were saying, the hippies, oh God, they're so far away, and they don't understand. You listen to Red Foreman, you're just going to be a stupid hippie, and the country's going down the drain, or other words that I don't want to use in this podcast. But then the Jesus Revolution happened. People all over the country started coming to faith in Jesus. We could have that again. We can have that again. I say, if we truly repent as a nation and turn to Jesus, I could see a revival taking place. And that's what I hope for. I pray for. If you look at our world, look at our country, I mean, you only have to watch the news for 5 minutes to see my point is accurate. So I encourage all of you to pray. I encourage all of you to seek the Lord's will in your life, to seek Jesus. If you have kids, I encourage you to keep reading the Bible, being faithful to the Lord, and diving into it with your kids. That's my encouragement. It's not too late. We could still come back. So on that, I leave this podcast. So, until next time, we meet again. May God richly bless y'all, my dearly beloved.